أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين صدق الله العلي العظيم. Dear students, we are switching once again towards the online classes due to current second wave of coronavirus, and our TL plan will be shifted towards. In that scenario, our lecture topic today is written. You can see on the screen, structure of heart, very important topic, heartbeat and vessels. And I would like to tell you, dear students, we start from the structure of heart. You can see right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle, and left ventricle, very important. I can indicate this is the left ventricle color. Yes, this is the left ventricle, this is the right ventricle, this is the right atrium, this is the left atrium. And what happens basically, if you see, we will study structure of heart first, then heartbeat, and then the blood vessels. I would like to tell you that right atrium pumps the blood to the pulmonary artery, it goes to the lungs, and then it goes to left atrium by pulmonary vein, then it comes to left ventricle here, and then pumps the blood to all parts of the body by aorta. So if you see these all blood vessels, this was the left ventricle. Yes, this was the left ventricle, you can see, my sons. Now I would like to tell you other parts, especially the valves. First of all, I would like to magnify this diagram. There are two important valves in the heart. One is the bicuspid valve and one is the tricuspid valve. One is the bicuspid valve, the second is the tricuspid valve. This valve, if you see, this is the tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve means it consists of three flaps of connective tissue, and bicuspid valve is here. Bicuspid valve means it consists of two flaps of connective tissue. Two flaps of connective tissue. The bicuspid valve, actually, valves are wherever the valves are. You must understand, they prevent backward flow of the blood, mean that the blood will not move at the back side. The valves prevent backward flow of the blood. For example, this tricuspid valve will prevent the backward flow of the blood from the right ventricle to the right atrium, because right ventricle pumping the blood to the lungs, so backward pressure will be more because right ventricle with the less muscles, and this therefore strong valve is being provided here, mean tricuspid valve. If you see here in this case, in the case of the left ventricle, left ventricle is pumping the blood to all parts of the body by aorta, and there are three flaps of connective tissue. Why there are three flaps of connective tissue? Because the left ventricle is with more muscles. Why more muscles? Because it is significant part, because it is moving the blood to all parts of the body. It will pump the blood to all parts of the body. Muscles more, contraction more, pressure forward is more and backward pressure is less. That's why bicuspid valve is given. So this was the actually the some informations about the heart. We go forward and would like to discuss something. The muscles of the heart. Muscles of the heart is the intercalated discs are present in the cardiac muscles. These are the some extra structures which are present in cardiac muscles. You can see intercalated discs. Yes, you can see these are intercalated discs. They are present in the cardiac muscle. Yes, these bands I am not highlighting because these bands are present in the skeletal muscles also, because skeletal muscles also have the bands, cardiac muscles also have the bands, but extra thing which is present in the cardiac muscle, that is these intercalated discs. Yes, that is the same point which I discussed in class. The cardiac cycle, vena cava, of course you would like to know about the vena cava. Two vena cava, one is a superior vena cava, one is a inferior vena cava, and these vena cava pump the blood. They will not pump the blood, they will collect the blood. from the lower part of the body, mean posterior part of the body, and from the upper part of the body, mean from the anterior part of the body, and they will supply the blood to the right atrium, and from right atrium to right ventricle, and once again the same circles will flow. Now we go back to the cardiac cycles. What are the cardiac cycles? Cardiac cycles mean that atria will contract. When atria will contract, this is called it. Now atria contract where? Atria contract, this is called atrial systole. And when the ventricle will contract, now the atria contract, ventricles relax. Okay, now go back to the ventricle. When the ventricles will contract, these ventricles will contract, both ventricles will contract, they contract, this is called ventricular systole. This is called ventricular systole. You are listening the heartbeat size from the heart, a lub dub sound. So I am explaining the lub dub sound after some time. Okay, so this sound is basically due to contraction of the atria and the contraction of the ventricles. When atria contract, it means this pressure is called systolic pressure. When the ventricles contract, that is called as diastolic pressure. I would like to explain once again. When atria contract, atrial systole. When ventricle contract, which is the ventricular systole. I will drop this one and would like to highlight the ventricles are in contracted status in this figure. It means that is ventricular systole. Ventricular systole. We go back to the another thing. When both are not contracting, mean atria is not contracting and ventricles is not, that is the condition of the cardiac cycle will finish. Cardiac cycle, this is the cardiac cycles. So what is the cardiac cycle mean? This is heartbeat. What is the heartbeat? One time atria contract, one time ventricle contract, and their relaxation time also included, and total time of one heartbeat is 0.8 seconds. In 0.8 seconds one heartbeat will take place, and what will happen? The lub dub sound I was talking about. Tricuspid valve close. Tricuspid, I will draw the diagram, will tell you the here you can see this is the, in simple fashion I will draw a simple diagram to give you clear concept. This is the right ventricle, this is the left ventricle, this is the right atrium, this is the left atrium, and what will happen? When the bicuspid valve will close, when it will close, look here, the figure watching is very necessary now in this concept. Okay, I hope you are watching. This is the tricuspid valve. When tricuspid valve will contract, tricuspid valve will close. When it will close, when left ventricle will pump the blood, here red line you are watching, left ventricle will pump the blood to the aorta, to all parts of the body. This valve will close. Why it will close? To prevent backward flow of the blood, and the blood will not go backward because valves prevent backward flow of the blood. And this sound is lub. This is the lub sound. When the dub sound will come, when the left ventricle will pump the blood to aorta, and aorta in the aorta, and aorta will definitely will receive the valves aorta, when semilunar valves which are present in the aorta. First of all, I would like to tell you the name of the valves. Semilunar valves which are present in the aorta, So what will happen? When ventricle will relax, mean that ventricle is not contracting, mean that is in diastole condition. When the ventricle contract, that is ventricular systole. When the ventricle relax, that is ventricular diastole. When ventricle relax, here the ventricles are relaxed here. So what will happen? The semilunar valve which is coming, this is the aorta, the semilunar valve which are present in the aorta, here you can see also, that will close. Semilunar valve which is coming from aorta that will close, and that seminal wall which is coming from left ventricle, this is aorta, and this seminal wall which is present in the aorta, it will close. That sound is dub. It means when the tricuspid valve will close, which is between left atrium and the left ventricle, that is lub sound. And when the aorta, in the aorta, seminal valve will close, that is the dub sound. Lub dub sound mean one heartbeat. And what is the total time of the one heartbeat? 0.8 seconds. And how many times your heart beat during your life? My sons, amazing. That number is 2.5 billion times. So this is amazing. In whole our life, the heartbeat runs, we are alive. We'll go back. So cardiac, what is the cardiac cycle? Cardiac cycle means that atrial systole and ventricular systole, they runs together and they finish in 0.8 second, and their contraction is called systole and their relaxation is called diastole. And how they contract? They contract due to current, and current comes from two nodes. I will talk two nodes. One node is, I will magnify, one node situated at the top of the right atrium, one node situated at the top of the right ventricle, and that node is the node present at the top of the right atrium, sinoatrial node, and the node which is present at the top of the right ventricle, the atrioventricular node. Sir, what is the advantage of these nodes? Students, I tell you, sinoatrial node provide the current, electrical current, mean message, nerve impulse. The electrical current mean that energy to produce to energy and electrical current, just like nerve impulse give the message to your body by the current. Similar type of, actually they control the electrical impulses. So they give current to the atria, by which atria will contract. Who give current, who give message to for the contraction of the atria? Sinoatrial node, SA node, sinoatrial node, and they will get the message from the brain. Of course, sinoatrial node, which will give the message, will give the electric current to the to the right atria and the left atria. They will contract earlier, mean atrium or atria will contract earlier, and then the ventricles will contract later on, and ventricles will contract by help of another nodes. What are the nodes situated here? Atrioventricular nodes. So these are the atrioventricular nodes situated. And now problem is how they reach the current towards the targeted side. They reach the current to the targeted side by fibers. Those fibers are excitable fibers. I'm naming them here. Excitable fibers written Purkinje fibers. They are the modification of cardiac muscles, and they give current to the muscles of the heart, mean muscles of the ventricle, and by which the ventricles will pump. And bundle of His and Purkinje fibers, these are the two structures which will give the current by taking from sinoatrial node to the cardiac muscles of the ventricle. Purkinje fiber and the bundle of His, these are modification, mean these are basically cardiac muscles, but they are modified to convey the current to the cardiac muscles, so that cardiac muscles will contract. So they are specialized to give the current. They will not contract himself, because they will give message to other cardiac muscles of the ventricle. So these are some specialist working of cardiac muscle, means some cardiac muscles will become the Purkinje fibers and the what the other points I told you, Purkinje fiber and bundle of His, you remember. So what is the 0.15 second is the delay in the working of sinoatrial node and the atrioventricular node. Mean conductance, the conductance of the current, mean that the current will come from the sinoatrial node to the atria, and then atria will contract. I will modify figure, sorry, because I have to modify the figure. I have to show first of all the sinoatrial node will give the message to the ventricles. The ventricles will contract, and the ventricles, the message goes to the atrioventricular node. Atrioventricular node will give the message to ventricles, and difference of conveying message will be 0.15 seconds. Why this difference is there? Why this difference is there? Reason: the atria must contract earlier and ventricle must contract later on, because atria contract earlier, both atria contract simultaneously, they contract earlier, then both ventricles contract. So there is a difference of 0.15 second between functioning of sinoatrial node and atrioventricular node. Three vessels, arteries, capillaries and veins. Lot of information about arteries, veins and capillaries we have discussed. We know elastin protein present in the middle layer, three layer in the arteries, outer layer, outer layer, then middle layer, then inner layer. And middle layer is very important, because middle layer technically consists of the muscles, smooth muscles, elastin protein. These are more thick layers in the arteries than the veins, because they will bear the blood pressure, and arteries carries the blood from the heart to the different part of the body. So blood pressure of the heart will be felt in the arteries. So tunica, another name of these layers: tunica externa, tunica media, tunica intima. Tunica intima. In both cases, in arteries and the veins, the main difference between arteries and the vein is that in the vein there is valves present, and second difference I already told, that the vessels are thin in the veins in the middle, because muscles are less, because they are not bearing the pressure, because they are just collecting the blood from the capillary after the capillaries, and after the capillaries blood pressure becomes almost minimum level. So which are watching the capillaries? What are the smallest blood vessel in our body? Are the smallest blood vessel in our body are the capillaries. If you see the capillary figures, these are some difference between the arteries, veins and the capillaries. I will show you by figure. You can see in the capillaries single cell layer, and there are small pores. These are the pores by which the food particles will come out. The food particles and useful components will come out, and they will enter the cells. So this is the only vessel by which exchange of the material take place. We'll go back to the arteries. Look at very thick layer. This is the middle layer, this is the inner layer, endothelium layer, this is the outer layer. Elastin protein, elastic layer present, and also circular muscle, which is also called smooth muscle, which are more in arteries and they are less in the veins. We'll go back to the veins. These are the veins, and you can see, my sons, the veins. This is inner layer, this is endothelium layer, this is the middle layer, and my sons, middle layer consists of elastic layer and smooth muscle, and smooth muscle is also called circular muscle, and outer layer is called connective tissue. Mean that this middle layer, which is the main layer of the vein, is little thin than the arteries. If you can see in the arteries, which is carrying the oxygenated blood from the heart to the different parts of the body. So these are the three blood vessels. And in the last, I would like to tell you that one artery which is very common, we discussed in the class, pulmonary artery, which carry deoxygenated blood, and pulmonary vein, which carry oxygenated blood. Thank you very much.